Okay, now getting on to today's meeting, Niranjan Selvadurai is a person I got to know really through my brother, Dayagon Sarkorala, in Sydney. I found him quite an intriguing and interesting chap, to put it mildly. He's a physics honors graduate from University of Colombo. Then he came to Australia, and from the Monash University he got a diploma in information technology, and he's actually lead enterprise architect information. That's what he's doing now. But that's not what we're interested in him. We are interested in him because he's quite a unique chap. He reads a lot, he writes, and he also writes poetry. And also, I'm sure Niranjan wouldn't mind mentioning this. Um, the Walpola Rahula Foundation, were looking for somebody to translate Walpola Rahula's famous book. And Niranjan is a man who was found to be the most suitable person. And we are all Sri Lankans, but Niranjan is a Tamil person. And it's such a great honor that a Tamil person was able to translate one of our sacred texts to Sinhalese. I mean, that speaks a lot for how the two races can get on really well without silly barriers. So I salute Niranjan for doing that, and for people concerning getting him to do that. So may that kind of cooperation continue. Now, I'm going to start this by first of all asking Niranjan to introduce himself a little bit more, to say something a little bit more about himself, and then he will present his discussion. A lot of it is going to center around the translation he did of Sathyodaya and his views on religion and philosophy and so on. And also, I will give him an opportunity to present some of his poems. So, Niranjan, over to you. Tell us something about yourself, what you would like us to know.
Actually, there is nothing much to know. Just that I had my education and upbringing in Sri Lanka, basically in Colombo. I studied in the Sinhala medium, and after I graduated, I was fairly. I went to school. I was fairly a good student, I think. I went to university, and then I worked 10 years in Sri Lanka. Uh, so after about 10 years of work there, I worked in Sri Lanka and also in certain time, and then I migrated to Australia. And more than 30 odd years in Australia. So basically went through life, and so when this did a few things differently in the last few years. So that is basically the story. There are no surprises there. People who know me. Yeah, it's not. Yeah. So whether the religion or the race really doesn't matter to me. Yeah.
So, how did
People
you?
who know me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how did you get involved with the translation of these books? What are the way you got involved with it?
So basically, I was asked, actually, yeah. So I think Miss Kalkande Dhammananda Thero was looking for somebody. I had met him before, and he knew me anyway. So this name was actually suggested, I think, by your brother Raj, saying, okay, uh, because they were looking for a person to translate this, because what they felt was that what that book said, written 84 years ago, 85 years ago, has a significant relevance nowadays in Sri Lanka too. So basically, based on that, they wanted it translated, and so the request came to me whether I could do it. There was a previous attempt, and but what I suggested to Dhammananda Hamduru is that it would be good if I can start from scratch, so that. And also the other challenge I wanted to do is that if it is going to be translated to English, it should be to a public. It should be a general publication for people who understand English, who are not, even including people who are non-Buddhist and non-Sri Lankan. I think it should be universal that way. So that was one of my requests, and I think he agreed to that. And based on that, then I have not translated anything before, so it was a challenge that phase. So I got around it, and then I got into it basically because I hadn't read it before, so it was everything from scratch happened that way. Yeah.
Thank you. You could now start to screen share, Niranjan, and you can go through your presentation and we'll question you after that. Okay. So,
Can you see the slide?
yes, that's fine.
Slide.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, guys. I hope you can hear me clearly. So let me start this way. Can you see the screen clearly?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So now today is 7th of February. So few days ago, that is 4th of February, Sri Lanka celebrated the Independence Day, right? So let's look at this word independence. I feel that independence has significant meaning. It can be interpreted in many ways. What intrigued me and what is important to me is also the fact that what is independence of thought. All of us should have independence of thought and clear thinking, and have some kind of ability to think independently. I think that is very important. I think that I would suggest that that is where Sathyodaya comes in, which was translated as truth awakening. Sathyodaya comes in because it is a guide to think freely and to think independently. It sort of coaches people. It helps people, give some guidelines how to do it. Now, just to give a bit of background, it was written by it was written by Walpola Rahula Thero 85 years ago. You all probably know about Walpola Rahula Thero. I will only briefly tell because you can Google and do some research and find who it is. So basically, Venerable Walpola Rahula Thero is a renowned academic, and he is well known in the international community. He has worked extensively in two countries, both France and in USA, and he has many publications in French and in English, right? So one of the seminal writings he did was about Buddhism, was What Buddha Taught. It was, I think, published in 1950s, if I'm not mistaken. So this is a person who could, who had a great deal of publications and well known in the community and internationally. So the question then comes, why didn't he write Satyodaya in English, right? So basically, maybe that was not done. So it was I considered it a big challenge when I was asked to do the translation, to translate Satyodaya into English, because after all, Venerable Walpola Rahula was a person who could have done it himself and would have done an excellent job. So it was like an afterthought that people thought, okay, let's translate it because it is applicable for people today. So let me go through it very quickly. The background there is that Venerable Rahula wrote it about 85 years ago. His audience was basically the Sinhala speaking Buddhists, probably the rural people, because he felt that those people were doing things in a way that was not taught by Buddha, was not aligned with Buddha's teaching, right? So wrong interpretation of Buddha's teaching. For example, there were things like rituals and rites and rituals which had come into play, which were not the right interpretation of Buddha's teaching. Then, in addition to that, Buddhism had sort of been used as a religion and for personal gain. And there are certain things about caste and people's classifying people based on their birth, even within the Sangha community. So these are the type of things he wanted corrected and people educated with. So that is the background of his writing Sathyodaya. So what was felt was that what was happening 85 years ago is entirely relevant or even more relevant today. So that is the reason they wanted this to be known by a wider audience, Sathyodaya, which was translated as Truth Awakening. So what I'm going to do today is I'm not going to give a whole lot of detail. I'm going to give you some kind of a feel of what this book and how this book basically approaches and teaches you or guides you how to think independently. So I will start by giving few of the quotations and giving some personal context when I of based on my experience as well. Now, the very first quote I'm trying to do is basically there is a dialogue. In this book, there is a dialogue, and frequently there is question and answer, and there is a good discussion, right? So it basically goes step by step, and Venerable Rahula tries to teach the person who is asking the question or some imaginary person who is asking the question how to think clearly and make his own call and make decide for himself. That is the strength of this book. Right. First quotation I will read. Uh, Food should be given to the hungry. Clothes should be given to those who do not have sufficient clothes. Shelter should be provided to the homeless. Sick should be cared for with love and compassion. And these are the offerings we can make to the Buddha. So this is on the question of what is Buddha Puja. Okay, so there is a habit that under Buddha Puja, you go and do things under the Bodhi, Bodhi Puja, Buddha Puja. You can take vast amounts of food, give it to, put it under the, take it to the temple and do that kind of thing. So what the book basically says is that is not really the Buddha Puja. If you find a hungry person, give that person food. If you find a person without clothes, give that person clothes. And that is and when you do that, that is the real Buddha Puja. And the book gives an example that they had a major Buddha Puja in a particular temple where there was so much food served and thrown away that could feed 20 or 30 people. And just next door to that temple, there was a school where impoverished poor children are going. And by lunchtime, they hadn't had breakfast in the morning, so they were basically fainting, but just next door in the temple, they were throwing this food away. So those are the type of examples they had given. Then there is a question of what is the sasana. Now this one will really intrigued me in a personal way as well. Growing up in Sri Lanka, I think I would have been about 9 or 10 years old. I can remember this very clearly, written in back of a lorry. Buddhu Sasuna Babaleva. May the Buddha Sasana glow. I'd seen this in the back of a lorry. So as a 8 or 9-year-old or a 10-year-old, so what I thought is this the Sasana must be a really colorful one, very bright, and that must be the Sasana, right? So that is the imaginary picture I had. And those days, there were on Vesak Day, there were big pandals in Colombo, and I can remember going and seeing these pandals with my parents. And one particularly in there was a big one at Borella Junction with all these lights and the Jataka stories and lights fluctuating. So when I looked at that Borella Junction Torana, what I thought is, this must be the Sasana in Udu Sasuna Bebeleva. That is the kind of feeling I had as a kid, right? So what the book says, let's go back to what Walpola Rahula says here. What is the Sasana? It is not some construction made of bricks and cement. Buddha Sasana signifies performing wholesome actions, refraining from unwholesome deeds. It's about cleansing the mind. It's represented by ethical conduct, sila, mental discipline, samadhi, and wisdom, prajna. Virtuous practice is the Buddha Sasana. So that was a real enlightening thing for me. So what it says is the Sasana is actually the teaching of the Buddha. It's not a pandal, not a construction. may the Buddha Sasana glow, but it is not a human construction or constructed by anybody. Oh, okay. The next one I will read. Uh, this is a very important thought. A rich person deposits money in a bank. Can you hear clearly? Sorry.
Yes.
A rich person deposits money in a bank, anticipating a big return with interest in a couple of years. The money is not deposited in the bank because of the fund, because of his fondness to the bank. Self-interest is the motive. It is no different to performing some action now, expecting comforts in the next life. So the argument he's putting forward here is that, okay, we see a beggar on the road, we give him say 5 cents those days, maybe it's about 100 rupees or 50 rupees now. You give that money to the beggar, and then you go on the way, go on your way and think, okay, let me be born in Tautisa heaven or something like that. You think for yourself, right? So why are you giving that money to that beggar? You're not giving that money to the beggar because you're feeling that he is hungry and he needs food and you want to take care for him. Why you are giving that money is you're expecting something in return uh, in the next birth, right? So is that a correct thought? Is that the right way to go? It is no different from depositing money in the fixed deposit and expecting return in 1 year or 5 years time. So that is a very good argument, and that's the type of writing and arguments he has put forward in this book. Okay, the next quotation. Truth cannot be revised and made easy so that an unwise person may understand it. If we attempt this, the truth may be distorted and provide a wrong teaching. So that is a very strong observation. What basically saying is there is truth being taught in Buddhism and maybe in other religions as well. There is Dhamma being taught. So you can't really simplify it and put it in a different way just because some people find it difficult to understand. So if there are the four noble truths and eightfold path and things like Paticca whatever it is, you can't just replace it and say, okay, do this Buddha Puja and everything will be right, or some other easy way that just because people don't understand it. So I feel that that is a very strong comment. This is observation. So what I'm pulling out here is various quotations within the book so that you get a feel of what this Walpola Rahula is talking about and how he's trying to reform people into thinking the proper way. Go through the next quotation. The Buddhist name tag will not help you to reach nirvana, but the Buddhist conduct will assist you to get there. A person will not become a Buddhist by merely taking refuge in the triple gem through a verbal utterance, nor will a person be a Buddhist by simply wearing a robe. There are many with false views who are parading as Buddhists. I won't comment too much on this. You might find it very familiar even in the current context, but what he's saying has a lot of meaning, right? There is no need to have this Buddhist tag, right? If there could be people even in other religions who are living a very righteous life, and they could be Buddhists as well. I mean, there's no need to say that you have to be born to be a Buddhist and you have to be a Buddhist to achieve nirvana. Those are all not the right way of thinking. And also he's saying that just because a person wears a robe, that person need not be actually a Buddhist in the sense of real Buddhism, right? There are many with false views who are parading as Buddhists. So I won't go through that further. You might find some things familiar there. The next one is also very important. Performing rites and rituals, which are known as Silabasa Paramasa, is established as a Buddhist practice in Sri Lanka today. It is an outcome of an un-Buddhist concept being adopted over many generations without necessary inquiry or censure. Blindly bowing down to these traditions, it comes down to generations in a fundamental weakness of the untrained mind. So this is basically saying, I'll amplify it in my next slide, uh, that rituals, rites and rituals, which are not part of real Buddha's teaching, has come into play and has been entwined with Buddhist practice today. And there is general lack of understanding which is the practice, which is the correct practice, and which is the right and ritual. So, and it has come down in generations. So I'll amplify it in my next slide with an example. The next one is the thought, I wish to attain nirvana, is a subtle reflection of self-interest. Nirvana cannot be reached until self-interest is eliminated. Now, this is a very important observation. So basically saying that it is a subtle reflection of self-interest. If you feel that, oh, I want to attain nirvana, I wish to have nirvana, that is a wrong approach. That is what he's saying here. I will amplify I will expand on this with my next slide. Now, in this book, Venerable Walpola Rahula has a habit of giving stories and parables to explain a particular point of view. I found that very encouraging and interesting. Just to give you a feel of it, I will give two examples from his book, right? So the first one is about bowing down to tradition that comes down to generations. Now he gives a very good example of a chief monk. He says that there was this chief monk in the temple with a lot of disciples. This chief monk had the habit every day before he went on his alms round, that is, went for Pindapata in the morning, he used to take out his bowl, hold it against the sun, and then take it down and go for his alms round. So all his disciples observed this, and they started following the same practice. Hold the bowl against the sun and then go around doing the arms round. And they followed it for years. Even after the teacher passed away, they followed it even down to the next generation. Nobody questioned him, why are you doing this? But there was a small, real practical reason why the venerable chief monk did this. Basically, in his bowl, there was a tiny hole in his bowl. So what he was doing is he was holding it against the sun to identify the exact spot of the hole, and then he used to keep a small finger beneath the bowl so that when he gets the food, there wouldn't be any leakage of food or liquid. So that was the reason. Nobody checked it, and for generations they said, okay, this is our tradition. We hold the bowl against the sun, so let's do it. So that is a good example. He says that people say that, okay, it has come down the tradition, so let's follow it. So, okay, so that is one of the examples he has given. So next one is a paradox of attaining nirvana. This is the same thing I spoke in the earlier slide. Basically, people say, oh, api me nirvana patandona, right? We have to wish for nirvana, right? We have to think about it. We have to wish for it. We want to aspire it. We want to have some thoughts and really wish for something. Otherwise, we won't get it. So what he is telling is that is a wrong understanding. And in this question and answer session in the book, the imaginary person who is asking the questions is not convinced. He says that if you don't wish for nirvana, how will you get it? So finally, Walpola Rahula gives this brilliant parable, and I will read it from the book. For me, it was one of the best observations in the whole book. Okay, the story is like this. I'll give the background and then read it from the book itself. There are two friends. They have, I think, they have been going down the Buddhist path. They have been learning Buddhism and practicing it diligently. And now one of them is about to reach nirvana. So these two friends have gone they are in front of the Buddha, they are having a chat to Buddha. By the way, this is an imaginary story, so don't assume that every fact here is correct. So there are now two friends, they are in front of the Buddha and they are having a conversation. Now here is what the book says. You and I are great friends and we are in the presence of the Buddha. You are on the verge of achieving nirvana. You say to the Buddha, if only I can reach nirvana, but not my friend, it is of no value to me. And the Buddha replies, if you so wish, your nirvana can be passed on to your friend. But if you do that, you will never be able to reach nirvana again. Of course, this is only a parable, right? You have the following thought. If I give my nirvana to my friend now, I will never be able to get there again. So I will take it now. My friend can get there later. With that thought, you will move thousands of miles away from nirvana you are about to reach. But instead you think, even if I never reach nirvana, even if I must suffer eternally in hell, let me give this nirvana to my friend. Then not only will you reach nirvana, but you will even be the supreme Buddha. If you wish for nirvana, you will not reach it. If you let go of it and wish for the sake of others, you will reach it. This is the paradox of attaining nirvana. I felt that that was a really good summation and example that gives you a really good flavor of what Walpola Rahula says in his book, How to Think Clearly. Now, in my next part of my presentation, what I'm going to do is this free thought and independent thinking, how I put it into practice after translating the book, as well as thinking about what was written in the book, right? So one of the thoughts I had is, because there was a saying in the book, there could be true Buddhists among those who wear cross and others going under another religious label. Nirvana can be reached through sufficient advancement of mind and wisdom. No name of a religion is necessary for nirvana. That's what Walpola Rahula says in his book. What I thought is, now what is he saying here? Is there a thing called ultimate religion? And is there one religion better than the other? How do we sort it out? So that is a sort of thought I had. Before I go to that section, what I will do now is give it back to Mahenraya, and we'll have a small break if people want to ask anything about the book. We'll have a quick few minutes of questions, and then I'll go to the other section, and then at the end of it, we'll take further questions. Will that be okay? Over to Mahenraya.
Can you stop sharing the screen for a moment so that I can see the gallery and direct the questions to the right person? So stop screen sharing.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, let me put the gallery view. Right. Now, there are lots of people. Some of them, though, are not on computer screen. They're on tablets and iPhones and so on. So I won't know. Either you could send me a chat message, or anybody who wants to ask the first question can raise his arm and unmute and ask the question. Raise hand, unmute and start questioning. Okay, who's the first one? Anybody with the hand up? I can't see anybody yet. Sunil. Unmute yourself, Sunil. Unmute, otherwise I can't hear you. Sunil, now ask your question.
Okay, the question I wanted to ask is it correct to describe Buddhism as a religion? Because the word religion involves belief and faith. Is it more correct to call it a philosophy rather than a religion? What are your views on that, Niranjan?
Okay, my next few slides will explain that. For me, there is nothing like religion. call religion. Religion is just a label, and if you so I would say that it is a philosophy. I would go with that theory, and for me, religion is just a idea that people have promoted, not only for Buddhism, for any other thing. It is a thought that okay, so we have to package something so that we can get an audience and sell it. So we say. Uh, the way I was thinking is that okay, if you are spiritual, there has to be have a brand name for that spirituality. So it can be say Buddhism, it can be Christianity, it can be Islam, something like that, right? There would be some differences between those. Where I'm thinking is that if you want to have good dental health, you brush your teeth, right? So you have to use a certain toothpaste, right? Whether you use SR signal or some other type, it doesn't really matter. What you're really focusing on is your dental health, right? So other one is a brand name, and I think what has happened is that these brand names have come in. That's the view I have. So it's a broad question. I think any philosophy, I think even Christianity, Islam, also I would say, let's start take it as a teaching and move on. And rather than saying, okay, it is a religion and that's a brand name. So what are you using? I'm using SR. You are using Dantamukta. Who cares? It doesn't matter. We are interested in dental health, right?
Okay, Charles Kodikara, you have a question.
How to download this book, Sinhala book? Somebody said it can be downloaded.
Okay, the English book is available. If you Google ebooks, you can get it. You can Google Sathyodaya, Truth Awakening. It is available on Amazon ebooks. The books are also available in Sri Lanka, in what is the place? You can get it from Walpola Rahula Institute, and also you can get it from Ramananda Thero. Do you know where you get it from? Anyway, I'll get the details.
I'll tell you what I'll do.
So it can
I'll do. I will get all the details from Niranjan and others who know. I will get the websites, all the information, and I will send a notice to everybody and also put it on the website where you can get it from. The English version, the Sinhalese version, hardcover, whatever it is.
I'm in Scotland. I'm in up north in Glasgow.
Yeah, don't worry. We will send that information to everybody. Okay.
Okay. Also, I have some books. If you want Mahendra, I can post some books to you. That's also is possible. Yeah.
About how many books can you manage, Niranjan?
I can send 10 books maybe.
Right. So if people who want to get the English version through Niranjan, I'll discuss the mechanics. But if you let me know, I will give
It will be good to send to one central location.
Yeah, it will be sent to one person. So if you send to me, I can post it internally because you can't be posting to each person. So you send the batch to me and I will then post it to individuals here. I don't mind doing that at all. Next question, please. Who's the next question? Sarat Senratyab. Okay.
Thank you, Mahendra. Now, this is more than a question. How marvelously Niranjan and actually the original author, Walpola Rahula Thero, has explained what nirvana is. It is not something that you have, but getting rid of all the greed and everything else. So you can't give nirvana to someone else. You have to get rid of the bad things you have. So that is nirvana. So if you are longing to hang on to nirvana, then you will be moving away from nirvana. That means nirvana is nothing, it is actually getting rid of all the lobha, dosa, moha. So he has in very short time, Niranjan explained how Walpola Rahula has explained what nirvana is. That's what the first time I have come across that if you are hanging on to nirvana and not give to your friend, then you will be moving further away from nirvana. I'm so delighted that.
Anybody else?
Thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for that observation, because that is the type of things that are in that book. Anyway, also I realized where the book is available in Sri Lanka. It is the Sarasavi bookshop. It is available, both books are available there in the Sarasavi bookshop in Sri Lanka as well. But I can post some of the English books if you require to me, or you can even contact Walpola Rahula Institute, and they also can send it across to you.
Okay, next Lakshmi followed by Mahesh Nirmalan. Lakshmi.
I think Niranjan has done a very, very exceptional deed in translating this very important book. I just like to ask him whether he had to refer a lot of Buddhist texts like the Tripitaka and things to translate this, or is it his knowledge was enough to translate this book? I just want to know whether.
No, very good question. Thank you for that question, Lakshmi, isn't it? Yeah. Thank you for that question. It is like this. I have a fairly good knowledge of Buddhism. That is okay. But when you get into translation, there were sections like the Kalama Sutra and all that, Ratana Sutra and all that. So there were so I had to translate some parts of that. So what I did was that rather than doing an original translation, I referred around to previous translations. So there are translations by Narada and Bhikkhu Bodhi, etc. So when there was that kind of passage about, say, Kalama Sutta, I sort of checked it against the Sinhala version which Walpola Rahul had written, and got some parallel and took those texts quoted from what is already translated rather than trying to translate it all over again. Other than that, I just stuck to basically what his thoughts were. So actually his Buddhist text quoting was limited. Most of the times the arguments were like what I was explaining Nirvana, right? What that explanation of Nirvana. So he basically, some imaginary person keeps asking questions, and why don't you say this? Why are you saying that there is no, say, why don't you wish to attain nirvana and things like that. There are and what is wrong in giving keeping food stuff against the pilima and saying that that's a Buddha puja? What is wrong with that? So that is the kind of explanation he has. But in some cases, like Sangika, what is Sangika and stuff like that, I had to do a bit. I just Googled around, but I had a basic understanding. I did have a basic understanding. But one of the challenges though was to put it in terms so that the non-Buddhists and the non-Sinhala people who don't have a Sinhala knowledge, outsiders, third party in Australia or England reading it, whether they will understand, right? Now, when you say Vas, for example, people in Sri Lanka, Buddhists, they understand, right? But would a third party understand what is this Vas and Katina and all that? So you have to give those explanations, and I couldn't really add it. So I had to put it as glossaries and comments. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Now Mahesh Nirmalan followed by Ruan Disoisa. So Mahesh first, then Ruan.
Niranjan, thank you very much. It's a coincidence you share my elder brother's name, but that's besides the point. The question I wanted to ask was, if I desire a flower, say I like a flower, I need to grow a plant. And in order to grow the plant, I need a garden. And it goes on like that. So the point I'm trying to make is an ideology or a doctrine or a vision can only thrive or survive within a social structure that is willing to support it. So in that sense, you can't entirely discard the cultural milieu, whether it is the Bodhi Puja or whether it is the temple festival or whether it's the annual Perahera or similar analogies in Hinduism. You can't entirely discard them as unhelpful additions which are taking you away from the main theme, because for that main theme to thrive and survive, you need a milieu or you need a garden for that flower to grow in. I would like your views on that.
No, I think you have a really good point. I agree with what you're saying, but it is like this. Where do you draw the line? Now, for example, there are examples now that they do this, take all this medical equipment and medical basically medication, and take it in thousands and maybe lorry loads and put it in front of Swarnali Shire and basically say, okay, that is basically a puja. What a waste is that? So that's what I'm trying to say. Why not give this to the people who are really ill and suffering? Why take this lorry loads and put it there, right? And also some other examples. So what they're saying is, as a token gesture, if you leave 1 spoon of say rice or something like that in front of the Buddha puja, Buddha pilima, that might be okay, because Buddha is not going to come and eat it. It will be far better to give to a person who is starving or doesn't have food. As a token gesture in your home, if you do that, that may be okay. You might get a good feeling. But why do this in that mass scale?
Yeah, I
Right?
think what we are
So
confusing here is politicizing a way of life as opposed to that
Yeah.
way of life. That way of life has value, inherent value. It's what you are referring to is actually how, whether it's in Sri Lanka or India or any other country, how those value systems are being politicized in order to control and capture power. That needs to be, I think, in the process of doing that, we cannot undermine that value systems or that milieu which is holding a particular belief system or a doctrine, I think.
Niranjan, can I step in just for a
very
moment? Because I think
yeah.
I may be wrong, but the way I interpret, you're not saying that people who offer flowers or do pujas are doing something wrong or something bad. What you're saying is that they must not lose sight of the focus of the intention behind what you're doing it.
Exactly.
That's the most important thing. So to have this cultural practice going on in a sensible way is inevitable. But always to appeal to people who are doing that, have you really thought of what you're doing? If you take your practice,
and that is exactly what the book is saying. And also what he's saying is that sometimes these temples, they have this pinkama, basically to get money to build a wall or to build a pilima or something like that. And they will say, okay, let's we are going to give you a sermon and we'll collect money after that. So what Walpola Rahula is saying is that basically saying that, okay, sermon is given and you need to give payment for that sermon. He disagrees with that concept. He says that, okay, if you want to canvas money, you want to do money, do a salpila outside, right? But don't link it with the sermon, right? Send the collection thing around after giving a sermon, and he says that the monk is still seated until people have contributed. The monk is still remaining on his seat without departing, right? What he says is then it is like the payment for the teaching he gave. He says that he feels that is the wrong thing. If you want to collect money, that is fine. Say that there is a money collection mission happening. We are going to bring this. We are going to do this. It's going to happen outside the temple. We are going to do this, and what we are going to do is to build the wall or build the Buddha Rupa or get the library done or whatever. That's fine, but don't link it with the teaching, because it came to such a situation. They say that, oh, when you say that, when they say that when he said that he was going to have certain series of teachings, then they used to come and say, sir, chief monk, what are you trying to build? Are you going to build a library or what? That is not that. It's just the teaching. So people think that teaching only comes for money, and Buddha never taught for money. So that is what he said.
Thank you very much. Ruan.
Niranjan, thank you very much for the talk up to now. I know that you're going to continue. The question is, you started by saying that the Walpola Rahula's book, Sathyodaya, was mainly to teach the normal hoi polloi about the true Buddhism. But actually, when I read this, he's actually slating the establishment, Buddhist establishment. Most of his criticisms are directed towards the establishment rather than just the normal people. So the question to you is, do you know what happened thereafter? How was it received? And there was a big problem or big movement against him? Because I wasn't born at that time, 30s.
No, I also don't know. I only can say from what I know. Apparently, there was a huge following, because what he did was, this Sathyodaya was printed much later, I think in the 80s or 90s. But I think it was first in some Sangara form, I think, because in the 1930s, when he was a young monk, he published it in some kind of a serial. And then he used to go from village to village, and there was a dialogue. This was before independence, right? And then the independence came and things happened, and then it got buried for a while. And then, as you know, in the 80s and 90s, it came up again, and it came up in a bigger mass scale, and people were just going. If you know what is happening today, I think it's very relevant. People can't link the original teaching with what is happening now, right? They just think it's like an easy way out. If you put more stuff and have a big puja, that is fine. Like, it's nothing about the purification of mind or sila, that kind of thing.
You submitted.
Okay, now I'll go to, okay, so what I'm trying to say is that I was talking so much about independence of thought, right? So free thought and all that. So what I'm going to talk about now is how I put my thought into some kind of poetry, and I want to share it. So can you see the screen? Can you see the screen? Sorry.
Yeah, yes, can see it. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, let me just share the context. Now, in the book, Venerable Rahula, he said, okay, there can be Buddhism on people who are wearing the cross and all that, right? So it doesn't matter, it's a label, right? So what I thought is, what will be the situation? Let's imagine that there is the ultimate God, and some person is going and asking this God, oh dear God, what do you think is the best religion? What's your thought? What is the ultimate religion? And then the God replies to that person. So I put it in form of a poetry. So it's like a free parting, continuing in that free thought thing which I was talking about. So I have written this idea in poetry in both languages. I'll read the English one and then the Sinhala one. The ultimate religion. O mighty God, the knower of all, may I implore thee to make one call. Of religions us humans enthrall, what is the noblest of them all? The noblest one I cannot guess. What religion is, I know even less. But my son, all noble sages stress the value of humanity and kindness. Temples, churches, build them if you may. Erect grand statues, place flowers and pray. But as gracious humanity slowly observe, son, which one religion could save the day? Your harmony with inclusiveness, these were the qualities I always bless. Yes, my son, all noble sages stress the value of humanity and kindness. So that is the English version in English about the religion. I thought that thought should be even written in Sinhala, so I did a Sinhala poem. So I'll read it for you. Ati utum agama. Deviyani asama sama, asenemi karuna mema. Lo ati utum agama, pevasu mena ekima. Agama yanukima, tirava nodanimi mama. Munivaru lo desudama, putuni e miniskama. Pansal palli kotekut lo bendata, mallu pilima abiyasa oba vendata. Nokalal minis kama neti vunu data, agama lesing oba samarin ne kata. Karunava ekamutu kama, tirava aga yemi mama, munivaru lo desu dama, putuni e minis kama. So the thought I'm having is extension of what Walpola Rahula was saying in the book. Wow, what if you ask this question from ultimate God, what is this religion? What is the best one? What do you think he will say? So what I'm suggesting is that he will say that it is the value of humanity and kindness and karuna ekonomutu kama minis kama. I think that's what he will say. So that is the thought I'm having. I'm sort of extending it, that idea. Now, going on to the next slide. Okay, what I'm trying to do here is that I'm giving you some thoughts in few different areas. Now, I spoke about religion. Now, here I'm going to talk about children and parents, children and mother, and children and father, right? So that kind of thought. What is the thought? Some of the thoughts I have, and I put it into poetry form. And after that, I will talk about some experience on Black July, right? Julie, Kalu Julie, right? Some of my experience and some of my thoughts there. And finally, I will conclude with the current COVID environment, some thoughts there. So that is what I'm trying to say. I'm saying that it is a continuation of this thinking of free thought, and sort of that how I thought of things. So I'm just sharing it with you. So writing on flowers. Now, this is a conversation between a mother and child. I must say that this is based on a song, Monavada Amme Akuru Jatiyak. I'll play it also at the end of it. It was written by Sri Chandraratna Manavasinghe. What this says is a universal mother and child moment. It's an inspiring dialogue with amazing innocence and simplicity. Basically, a conversation a small boy is having with the mother. He's saying about nature and asking questions, and the mother is explaining it. So I thought that is a brilliant thought, brilliant way that person, Chandraratna Manavasinghe, has written it. So what I thought is, look, some things in life should not be just hidden in one language. It should be made universal and shared among people. So I try to put it into English poetry. So I try to do it justice. So I'll read it and then I'll play that song just to revise your memory. Sorry. So writing on flowers. What are those letters, mother, so daintily printed on each flower? Who writes them, mother, in such pretty lines of many a color? Of wonderful happenings in the moonlit wood, we do not know, my dear little son. When wise sages preach how to do good, by forest angels this writing is done. To flowers from where do colors come? Such beautiful shades we have none. Mother, mother, tell me how. I cannot follow anything now. When sun rises and when sun sets, colorful clouds paint our sky. The dye from there a flower gets. Such things, son, happen on the sly. Mother, mother, those little birds keep glancing at these words. Their excited chirp while speaking suggests they know the meaning. My sweet little son, you're right. Birds' songs give much delight. In different tunes, what is said is recorded on each petal head. Flowers above and flowers below, and see little birds flying galore. Why isn't this observed every day? Where do flowers and birds go away? During the life of our great sage, nature's beauty prevailed, my son. Humans, animals, and even foliage all rejoice together as one. Mother, when I was saying my prayers, the great sage glanced down at flowers. Did you watch him calmly smiling as he recalls his past teaching? So writing and flowers. Now you might wonder what this song. So I think we should do justice and go through the song which Sri Chandraratna Manavasinghe wrote. You may have heard it during your childhood. I'll just play it to you. Can you hear it? Did you hear it? I'm trying to play it.
Yeah,
Is the sound coming clearly?
yeah, it is coming through. Okay, not
Okay. Okay, please hear it. Okay, thank you. I just wanted to play the English singular version so that you can get the feeling. It is about a mother and child moment. So what I wanted to share is that these mother and child moments are universal. It doesn't matter whether you're singular or some other country. So that thought I wanted to share because we might have those moments. We might now moved on in age. We might cherish that moment. So that is the thought I wanted to share. Um, So when you talk about the mother, I think we need to talk about the father as well. So this is a very personal thing. Uh, the ship that sailed, it is actually by about my father, my thought, what I had about my father. And just to give you a background, I might just read it because some of us are fathers on our own right, and all of us have fathers. So there has to be there are a lot of appreciation about the mothers, but sometimes we don't appreciate about our fathers. So this is my thought. Just to give you a background, in my family, uh, there was my mother, father, and my elder sister. So they are only my elder sister and myself. We had a childhood in Sri Lanka. It was quite a pleasant childhood. So at some point, I migrated to Australia, and my father had worked for a long period in Sri Lanka. He also migrated after a while to Australia with my mother, and then he lived in here as well. So that is the thought. And what I'm saying in this poem here is that I'm comparing my father to a ship that sailed. And also there is reference to my mother. My mother was like the captain of that ship. So I'll just go through it just because it's personal, but what I thought is that mention about the father. So let's mention about the father as well, because we have been fathers in our own right also, most of us during our life. So let's just go through it. I won't comment too much. The ship that sailed. When we were very young, still with fledgling tongue, we sailed on a ship, having one joyous trip. The world was bright, the weather just right, well sheltered inside, with Captain as our guide. My sister and I thought pigs may fly. But with times bygone, comprehensions dawn, it became amply clear that Captain was mum dear, and the mighty ship that sailed was but our dead who prevailed. Then venturing outside, now aware of the rising tide, my sister and I knew pigs don't fly. When seas were rough and the going got tough, the ship serenely sailed on until all storms were gone. With the able skipper at the helm, there was calm within the ship's realm. Watching the problem solver in union with the peace revolver, my sister and I saw values to live by. Then the ship sailed away to a port down Botany Bay. Though arriving at twilight, zest remained to do things right. Fresh challenges and new life, living in harmony sans strife. Even after the skipper was gone, the seasoned ship still sailed on. My sister and I never wondered why. Now the ship has drifted on, past the horizon and beyond, hope, hopefully to a blissful realm. Will there be a skipper at the helm? Thank you, mighty ship, for that exemplary trip, for serenely riding the wave, asked but little, but simply gave, leaving my sister and I those memories to cherish by. Thank you for listening to that. I read this poem in my, at the funeral of my dad, and the last two verses I wrote sitting by his bedside just a couple of days before he passed away. So it is my thought. What I said thought there is that he was like the ship which sort of stood very strong through our life.
Simply beautiful.
Yeah, so that is what I'm trying to say, is that that's the exception of the thoughts I have. So now let's change the scene a bit. We come into Kaluduli. So this day was July 25th of July 1983. It was a Monday. 25th of July 1983. It was a Monday. I was working for a bank a leading bank in Colombo Fort. And by lunchtime, Colombo was basically on fire burning. So we were there, and there were a lot of people at work. Buses had stopped. There was no transport. And there were plenty of girls who had come to work. There was no way for them to go home. There were Tamil girls, Sinhalese girls, all the, yeah. So basically, I had a full tank in my car, petrol. So I thought, a friend of mine and myself, we thought, let's go around and drop these girls where we can, right? So I thought, okay, you know my name and stuff like that. I thought it might be best if I don't drive or carry the ID card or the driver's license. So I asked my friend to drive. So we took a few girls and we left. So from Fort we drove. We were around Town Hall. So around Town Hall, we couldn't proceed because the road was blocked. There was a bit of a commotion on the road. People are there and all that. So because I was in the passenger seat in the front, I got down. I said, best to check. And so I got down and started talking to the person close by, next to me. So, sorry. So what I'll do, there is the English version and the Sinhala version. I'll read the Sinhala version first, because I feel that it came out better. So for people who don't understand the Sinhala, I'll read the English version after that. So it's titled Api Under the Maldi. So now the scene I have given you, right? I just got down from the car and I am asking this person, Api Under the Maldi. That's what I'm asking, right? Can we proceed? I'm just asking whether you can proceed. Api Under the Maldi, right? Okay, so I'm saying, Mehendala Under the Api, Kohen Ava Kauruda Topi, Pita Vargen Gatta the Vesa, Mese Asai Viparam Masa. මේ නංගිලා ගෙදරින් ඇරලන්ටයි අපි යන්නද මල්ලි රෑබෝවන්ටයි හිංගල කතාව මම ගෙනියන්නම් තව තව හොඳ පද ගලපලා දෙන්නම් අසලා මගේ බස බැලී ඔහු රත දෙස නැගෙනියන් පිටුපස දෙත යොමුනි ඇස නැතුව පොට්ටු පැලඳිල්ලක් වුණු අතරේ කුමන වෙනසක් මේ නංගිලා දුර ඉඳලයි එන්නේ කලබල හින්දයි බස් නොදුවන්නේ පෙට්‍රල් තව නැද්ද දෙන්ට ටැංකිය ඇති මල්ලි ගන්ට වැඩ බොහොමයි අද කරන්ට කාලය නෑ තෙල්ලුරන්ට අසලා මගේ පිළිතුරු ටාසන් මාහා සුමිතුරු පාරෙන් ඔක්කොම අමාරු වෙල්ලා කාර් එක දාන්න ඉඩක් තියල්ලා ගිනිගත් නිවසක් අසලින් දකිමි පිරිසක් පෙට්ටි උසුලන් යති කරත්තෙට පටවති මගදිග දැවෙන කඩ වීදුරුද සීසී කඩ මේ ටාසන්ලගේ වැඩ ජාතියක මරහන රතයෙන් මෙසේ යන විට යම් සිතක් පළවිය මට ටාසන් කළේ මේ නොහොඳ මට නම් කළේ හොඳ මන්නන් නුඹලගේ වර්ගයේ නුනට වැරදිලා හරි මට යන්නට දුන්නට මතු ಜಾති ಜಾතිවල නල්ලම් ඉන්නට එල්ලාම් පින් ලැබේවා අපි මල්ලිට. So what I'm trying to say there is that I was stopped. Though I was Tamil, it didn't matter because I could speak Sinhala fluently. So they said, okay, you can go. He cleared the road for us. We went through. So what I'm saying is I'm thankful for that person. Whether he misunderstood, that is irrelevant to me. Matu jati dati nalla minnata ellam pen labeva api mallita. Right. So I'm saying, okay, whatever it happened, it was good for me. So I'll carry on. So I'm saying that is the thought I had. So the same thing, maybe pass brother, I might skip that. It's the same story. I'll just read the first verse. Maybe
read the whole thing, Niranjan. Read the whole thing.
Okay. May we pass brother, but are you one of us or someone other? Probing eyes survey thus. Taking girls home from work, assuredly I mutter. Don't you have sisters too? I dare not utter. Rod in hand he twirls, peers down at the girls. They are of diverse race and creed, but united in the hour of need. Girls huddled in the car, all similar pensive faces, none with pottua thali, those giveaway traces. See, bro, they come from far. Buses not running, blah, blah. Fluency and tone matter, so I keep up the chatter. Got petrol in a tin can? No, there is some in the tank. No time to siphon, man, says Tarzan at my flank. Now that I have passed this test, Tarzan is my best friend best. Clear from the road due, this car must go through. Shops ablaze and shattered glass. Tarzan back at the helm yelling. Unruffled mates loading handcarts, charred remnants of a once dwelling. Although you made your call, as if we be of the same feather, may you gain merit and stand tall for letting us pass, brother. So that is my thought, shared thought on July, Black July. So that was a personal experience. So that is how I thought about it later and I expressed it. So coming to the final thought, COVID, right? So we are all under COVID. So this is what happened last year. I was in Sri Lanka at the start of COVID, so we had to return all of a sudden back to Australia, and straight away I had to go into self-quarantine and work from home and all that stuff. So I was it was a hard time and I was a bit confused and sudden changes. Then anyway, a thought came to me when I wrote this poem. Just to give the background, COVID at the door, what I'm trying to say here is that I'm comparing this COVID to a street thug. So this street thug lives in the number 19 house and he goes around tapping on the doors and threatening people, right? People in the street are fairly scared of this guy because he's a thug and he's knocking on the doors and saying things. Only thing though is that though he's a thug and he's saying these things, what he's saying has a lot of meaning and there is some truth to it. So that's the thought of framing I have. So let's listen to this. COVID at the door. Knock, knock, who is there? Is that you, David? No, ma'am, it is COVID. David is already with me. It is you I like to see. COVID who? And what do you do? From number 19 I am. Do you know me well, ma'am? Oh no, COVID, please go. Any messages leave at the door. Mark my message, you all, for it has a distinct universal call. You may be poor, you may be rich. I don't care a hoot which is which. If conditions have the right flavor, I act with no fear of flavor. Heedless of the country, culture, or race, you are bound to see my neutral face. Be you a prince or a homeless dude, my attention you will not elude. For I act with no fear of favor if conditions have the right flavor. Protect all borders if you may, self-isolate and keep me away. Here and there you may win a fight, but seriously, have you got it right? It is but just one of you need to remain for me to come back knocking again. My presence you will always find if you leave your weak behind. Care for all mankind as you could, and then I will go away for good. Till then, remember me well, ma'am. I'm COVID from number 19, I am. So what I'm trying to say is that COVID has taught us a few things. It may be a bad person or a bad thug, but what he's telling is that if one person remains behind, COVID will come again. So, I mean, you rich people just escaping or powerful people escaping won't matter. So that is the thought I'm extending here. So I don't have a similar thing in Sinhala, but it's on the lighter vein. I'll finish this, conclude my talk. So I have this thing called Tikirilia. So that is basically in Sri Lanka, they were saying that people are flouting all these COVID rules. So basically, Tikirilia, all of you know about Tikirilia. So this is giving some COVID advice to Tikirilia. So it goes like this. Tikiri 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 liya, kalet taran lindata giya, linda vatakara kabara goya, kapula kapi diya bariya. That is no change. Then we go Mukavadam Gedaratiya, Lindata Ave Mukada Oya, Meetera Paratarayatiya, Dia at the Pang Tikirilia, Paya Kavata Diabaria, Pata Vatakara Covidia, Vatura Kale Ukuletiya, Keta Duapang Tikirilia. Basically telling that to look, there is this COVID around here, just go home soon as you can. So with that, I will conclude, but with one thought before giving back to Mahendra here, because the talk had this word, I said second innings. You might be wondering what this second innings is. So my thought is something like this. Now we have lived our life. We have gone through we have been through childhood. We have gone through some education. We have worked. We have raised families. We have had careers and so on. That's all good, right? And we have come to a certain place in our lives. That's all good. But when you think of it, it is like this. The river starts on the top of the hill, and then it flows down from the top of the mountain to the sea, right? It is flowing downwards. And our lives are a bit like that. We have followed a certain tradition, way of thinking. We have achieved something, that is all fine. But is there a second innings left in that? That is what I was describing is all the first innings. First innings is all well and good. We have done good things maybe. But have we thought outside the box? Have we thought the way Walpola Rahula is suggesting, independent thinking? So that we have a room for that second innings. And my bit of the second innings only what I was trying to see. And I think all of you will have a bit of, I think, should have some time for this second innings. With that, I will stop. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Niranjan. If you would mind stop sharing screen, we can go back to questions.
එකක් තමයි සත්‍යෝදය මුලින්ම ආපු වෙලාව ගැනද අදහස් කරන්නේ මෑත නැවත මුද්‍රණයක් කරලා සමාජගත කරන වැඩ පටන් ගත්තට පස්සේ කාලේ ගැන දහන්නේ.
දෙකම ඉස්සෙල්ලා පළමු වර ඊට පස්සේ දෙවන අපුවර. හරි? පළමු වර ඉස්සෙල්ලා කියන්නේ.
පළමු වර හාමුදුරු රාහුල හාමුදුරු තනින් තන යමින් මිනිස්සු අතර මේ අදහස කතා කරනවා. ඊළඟට පත්‍රිකා හැටියට තමයි මේක බෙදලා සමාජගත කරන්නේ. එතකොට රාහුල හාමුදුරුවන්ට එක්තරා ප්‍රමාණයක මේ අදහස එක එකඟ වෙන පිරිසක් වගේම විරෝධයකුත් ඇති වුණු බව හාමුදුරුවෝ කියලා තියෙනවා. ඒක විරෝධය එන්නේ අර සාම්ප්‍රදායික ආයතන වලින් විරෝධයක් එනවා. නමුත් මේක පොතක් හැටියට මුද්‍රණය වෙන්නේ අතරම 1993 දී මුල් කාලේ 930 ගණන් වල පත්‍රිකා හැටියටයි බෙදා හැරීම සිද්ධ වෙන්නේ. ඊළඟට දැන් 93 මුද්‍රණය වෙනවා. ඊට පස්සේ ඒක දෙවෙනි වරක් මුද්‍රණය වෙනවා. ඒක සමාජගත වෙනවා. එතකොට රාහුල හාමුදුරට වයස 80 ගණනේ අවසන් හරිය වගේ 80 දශකේ. ඊට පස්සේ හාමුදුරු අපවත් වුණාට පස්සේ තමයි නැවත මේක මුද්‍රණය කරන්නේ අලුත් හැඳින්වීමකුත් එක්ක. ඒකෙදි මේ පොත විතරක් නෙවෙයි මේ පොතෙන් එන අදහස ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන වැඩපිළිවෙලක් තැනක් අන්න ඔය ටිකත් එන්න ඕන කියලා අපි හිතුවා. දැන් මේ පොත මුද්‍රණය කළාම සමහර මහත්වරු ගොඩක් උනන්දුනා මේකට විශාල ප්‍රචාරයක් දීලා අපි ලොකු සංවාදයක් ඇති කරමු කියලා. මම ඒකට එකඟ වුණේ නැහැ. මම කිව්වේ මේ අදහස එක්ක යන තව ලොකු වැඩපිළිවෙලක් එන්න ඕනේ. ඒක නැත්නම් මේක පොතක් ප්‍රචාරය වෙලා අන්තිමට එහෙම ඒක විතරක් මදි කියන එක. ඉතින් මේ දැන් මේ ආයතනය රාහුල ඉන්ස්ටිටියුට් කියන එක ඇත්තටම ওই සත්‍යෝදයේ එන අදහස භාවිතා කරන තැන බවට පත් කරන දේ. ඒක තමයි අපි හිතුවේ. ඒක දවසක දෙකක වැඩක් නෙවෙයි. ඒක නැවත හිතන්න ඕන. දැන් අපි හිතමු ආයතනයකට එනකොට ඒ ආයතනයේ තියෙන සංකේත වලින්ම මිනිස්සු බෙදනවා. මේක මම ආйти තැනක් නෙවෙයි. මේක බෞද්ධ, මේක ක්‍රිස්තියානි. එතකොට අර ඒව ගැන සංවේදී වෙමින් ඒ සංකේත ඉවත් කරන එක. එන ඕනම කෙනෙකුට මෙතනට මම ආйти. ඊළඟට ඒක සමහරට පුවරුවකින්ම කියනවා උපත මත තීරණය වූ ජාති ආගම කුලය ලිංගිකත්වය වැනි අනන්‍යතා වලින් හැකිතරම් මිදී මෙම භූමියට ඇතුළු වන්න. මේක තමයි ඉස්සරහා අපි ලියපු දේ. ඊළඟට ඔන්න ඔය විදිහට අපි උත්සාහ කළා මෙන්න මේ කියන්නේ සත්‍යෝදය විතරක් නෙවෙයි පොතක් ඒක ගැන කතා බහ වෙනව නෙවෙයි ඒකේ එන දේ භාවිතාවන තැනක්. අන්න ඔය ඕක තමයි මේ මට කියන්න පුළුවන්. එතකොට මේ ඒ හින්දා සත්‍යෝදය පොත සමග මෙන්න මේ වැඩපිළිවෙල එන්න ඕන කියලා අපි හිතනවා. ඉතින් යම් පිබිදීමක් තියෙනවා. මේක සමාජගත වෙනවා. සමාජගත වෙන කෙනාට මේක කියවන්න තියෙනවා මෙන්න මේ තැනට එන්න මෙතන මේක භාවිතා කරන්න හදනවා කියලා. ඉතින් ඒ හින්දා මම හිතන්නේ අවුරුදු 25ක විතර වැඩක් අපට තියෙනවා කියලා. ඒක ඉවසීමෙන් සහ ගැටුමකට නොයා යා යුතු දෙයක්. ඒ වගේම තව එක අත්දැකීමක් මම බෙදා ගන්න කැමති. මේ ළඟ හාමුදුරු කෙනෙක් මේ අදහස් එක බොහොම එකඟ. උන්වහන්සේ වැඩසටහනක් සංවිධානය කළා. ඒ දැන්වීම පූර්ව සකස් කරලා තිබුණා මිත්‍යාවට එරෙහිව ඔහොම කියලා වචන. ඉතින් මට මේ බැනර් එක එව්වහම මම කිව්වේ මිත්‍යාව කියන වචනේ පාවිච්චි කළොත් අපි තමයි හරි ඔයාලා වැරදි කියන විදිහටයි භාෂාව යන්නේ. ඒ නිසා මං කිව්වා එහෙම මිත්‍යාව කියලා කියන්නේ නැතුව අපිට බැරිද මුලාව කියන්න. එතකොට කාටත් පහසුයි. අන්න ඔය වගේ මේ අදහස ගෙනියනකොට අනේකා බවට පත් කරන්නේ නැතුව අද ඔයා වැරදි අපි හරි කියන්නේ නැතුව අපි ඔක්කොම මේක කතා කරමු. අපි මීට වඩා උඩ තැනකට යමු. ඔන්න ඔය ප්‍රවේශය තමයි අපි කරගෙන යන්නේ. ඉතින් මේ වෙලාවේ තව එක දෙයක් කියන්න කැමති. මේ වෙලාවේ මට යන්න උනේ මෙතන පැවිදි වෙලා මෙහෙ අපිත් එක්ක හිටියා නේපාල් හාමුදුරු කෙනෙක්. එයා ඊට පස්සේ සිවුරෙන් තරුණ වයසේදී ඉවත් වෙන්න තීරණය කළා. එතෙන්දිත් මම එයාත් එක්ක කතා බහ කරලා එයාට උදව් වුණා. අන්තිමට සිවුරෙන් ඉවත් වුණා. එතෙන්දි මම කිව්වා සිවුරු ඇරලා ගියා කියලා හැංගෙන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. ඒක ඔක්කොම ඉස්සරහා මම හැමෝටම එක කළේ. ඊළඟට සිවුරු ඇරලා දැන් එයා හෙට අනිද්දා නේපාලට යනවා. සිවුරු ඇරිය තැන ඉඳලා මෙහෙ හිටියේ. එතකොට දැන් මේ එයා වෙනුවෙන් ෆෙයාවෙල් එකක් අද 5 ඉඳලා. ඉතින් මම කියන්නේ අවිහිංසාවාදය කියලා කියන්නේ අපි පොතේ කතා කරන එකක් නෙවෙයි. ඇයි එයාව අපිට බාර ගන්න බැරි? මහාන වෙන එක උත්සවයක් නම් ඇයි සිවුරු ඇරලා යන එක උත්සවයක් නොවෙන්නේ? එතකොට අන්න ඔය කියන්නේ මේ අද වැඩසටහන පවා ගත්තොත් සත්‍යෝදයේ එන අදහස භාවිත. ඕක තමයි මට කියන්න පුළුවන් මේ කෙටියෙන්. මම හිතන්නේ මං උත්තරේ මම හිතන්නේ ප්‍රමාණවත් වෙන්නේ නැති කියලා වැඩිපුරක් කියන්න ඇති කියලා මම හිතනවා.
බොහොම ස්තුතියි. අපේ ඉංග්‍රීසියෙන් කියනවා නම් you want the Sathyodaya to act as a catalyst for change.
Yes.
Yes, to bring about change, not just be something which is there, but actually work on it, make it practical and produce a change. බොහොම ස්තුතියි. Mahesh, ask your question.
හාමුදුරනේ මගේ නම නිර්මලන්. පොඩි ප්‍රශ්නයක් හාමුදුරන්ගෙන් අහන්න තමයි මට හිතුනේ. මේ නිරංජන් සෙල්ලදුරේ මහත්මයා කරපු කතාව අහගෙන ඉද්දී මගේ හිතේ එක්තරා සැකයක් ප්‍රශ්නයක් ඇති වුණා. ඒක අහනවාද නැද්ද කියලා මම ගොඩක් හිතුවා. නමුත් දැන් හාමුදුරන් ඉන්න හින්දා මම අහන්නම් ඒක එක්තරා දුරකට ලංකාවේ දැන් වර්තමාන දේශපාලනයට අදාළ ප්‍රශ්නයක් හින්දා තමයි මම ගොඩක් හිතුවේ. මගේ ප්‍රශ්නේ මේකයි. දැන් මේ වගේ කතාවක් නිරංජන් සෙල්ලදුරේ මහත්මයා වගේ කෙනෙක්ගෙන් අහනකොට එක මිනිස්සුන්ගේ හිතේ එක්තරා එක විවිධ අදහස් ඇති වෙනවා. ඒකෙන් එකක් තමයි මෙයා දෙමළ වුණාට හොඳයි කියන ඒ සංකල්පය. දැන් හාමුදුරුවන් වර්තමාන ලංකාවේ වර්තමාන දේශපාලන තත්ත්වය ගොඩක් අවබෝධ තියෙන එක්කෙනෙක් හින්දා ඒක ගැන පොඩ්ඩක් පැහැදිලි කරන්න පුළුවන්ද? ඒක මං අසාධාරණ කියලා කියන්නේ නෑ. නමුත් ඒක තමයි බෞද්ධරයගේ හිතේ ඇති වෙන හිත. ඒක ගැන හාමුදුරුවන්ගේ අදහස ප්‍රකාශ කරන්න පුළුවන් නම් මම බොහොම සන්තෝෂ වෙනවා.
බොහොම ස්තුතියි. තාම හොඳයි මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ අහපු එක. මම හිතනවා කාලෙත් එක්ක සංස්කෘතිය is it all right if I speak in English, Sinhala only? There are, I see some people. Is it okay?
Whatever you are comfortable with.
Mr. Robin, can you? Okay.
You can.
I leave you. If you feel you can get your message across better in Sinhalese, do so. Otherwise, English entirely up to you.
Yeah. I will use both the language. I'll try. What I see through our culture, අපේ භාෂා සංස්කෘතිය තුළ අපේ දැනුමක් නැතුවම අපේ අපේ අපිට ඇතුළත් වෙලා තියෙනවා අපි හොඳයි අනෙක් කෙනා හරි නෑ වගේ අදහසක්. ඒ නිසායි කතා කරන් යනකොට නොදැනම කියවෙන්නේ එයා මුස්ලිම් වුණත් හරි හොඳයි හාමුදුරුවෝ. ඔහොම කියන අය ඉන්නවා හම්බෙලා තියෙනවා. ඉතින් මේ එතකොට මේ විතරක් නෙවෙයි සුනිල් ආරියරත්න මහත්තයාගේ සින්දුවේ දෙමලා උනත් සුද්දෙනෙකු නම් පුටුව දෙනු හෙළයා උනත් දුදෙනෙකු නම් ඔහොම කියලා. එතකොට සිංහලයා උනත් නරක නම් ඒ කියන්නේ සිංහලයා හොඳයි. හැබැයි සිංහලයා වෙලා ඉඳගෙනත් නරක නම් එයාව අයින් කරන්න. ඔය වගේ මම හිතනවා මේක ඒ කියන්නේ මේක දැනගෙන හිතලා කරන එකක් නෙවෙයි. මේක එන්නේ අපේ ගොඩනැංවීමේදී ඇතුළත් වුණු එකක් තමයි මේක අපිට සමහර විට ඒ කාලයත් එක්ක නොඑක් විදි වලින් අපට කාවැදුණු අදහස තමයි එයා අසවල් එකේ වුණත් මෙහෙමයි කියන්නේ. මම හිතන්නේ ඒක අපි මෙන්න මෙහෙම කතා කළොත් තමයි මේ හරි පුතා හම්බුනේ. ඉතින් මේක අපි කතා කරන්න ඕන. තව එක උදාහරණයක් කියන්නම්. මම ඉස්සර සභාවක කතා කරනකොට නෝනාවරුනි මහත්තුරුනි කියලා මම කිව්වා. නෝනාවරුනි මහත්තුරුනි කියලා. හැබැයි සෑහෙන කලක් ගියා මට තේරුම් ගන්න නෝනලයි මහත්තයලයි විතරක් නෙවෙයි මේ ලෝකේ ඉන්නේ කියලා. ඒක සංවේදී වුණාට පස්සේ මං කවදාවත් නෝනාවරුනි මහත්තුරුනි කියන්නේ සභාවේ ඉන්න සුළුනාගෙන් අවසරයි කියනවා මිස. එතකොට දැන් අර අපි ගොඩනැංවීමේදී අපි දැනගෙන නෙවෙයි අපි අතින් එක වෙන්නේ මේක සංස්කෘතික වශයෙන්ම ආපු දෙයක් තමයි වීම ඇතුලේ ඔන්න ඔහොම මේ අපේ නොවන කෙනා කියලා එයා ඒක එතන ඉඳගෙන තමයි මනින්න හදන්නේ. ඉතින් මේ දැන් අපේ නොවන කෙනා යා කියලා. එහෙම නැතුව යන්න අපිට පුළුවන් නම් භාෂාව ඇතුලේ. එහෙම නෑ. එහෙම කෙනෙක් නෑ. අපි ඔක්කොම එකයි. මේ ගොඩනැංවීමේ යම් නම වෙනස් වෙනවා භාෂාව වෙනස් වෙනවා. ඉතින් මං හිතනවා ඔබේ අදහස මං කවදාවත් වෙන්න ඇති මේක ගැන නොදැනුවත් කාලේ. නමුත් මම හිතන්නේ අනෙක් අතට ඉතින් බුදු හාමුදුරුවෝ සිංහලත් නෙවෙයි බුදු දහම දේශනා කළේ මනුෂ්‍ය වර්ගයාට. උන්වහන්සේ ළඟ හිටපු අයගේ හැමේ පැහැ ගැන කතා කරනවා භාෂා ගැන කතා වෙනවා. ඒ හැම තැනකම තියෙන විවිධත්වය අපි ඔය මේ රිචුවල් එක බැඳුණු බුද්ධ ආගම වගේම මෙන්න මේ කියපු ආපු එකත් මම හිතනවා අපි සංවාද කළ යුතුයි. අපි කතා කරනකොට තමයි මම හිතන්නේ මෙහෙම දෙයක් වෙනවනේ කියලා අපි දැනගන්නේ. ඔය තමයි මගේ අදහස.
Anybody else has a question so that we can finish soon? Ruan has a question and then Ajanta has a question. So who puts his hand first? Ruan or Ajanta?
Ruan. I put my hand first.
Both hands or one hand? Okay, Ajanta first, then Ruan.
Okay. Niranjan, I have been married for 41 years and I'm a Christian and my wife is a Buddhist. And one of the things that I'm very uncomfortable is the rituals in Buddhism. Likewise, I'm very uncomfortable with quite a lot of the rituals in Christianity as well. But you explained today, made me understand that actually when you dissect the doctrine, there is quite a lot of alignment between the doctrine of Christianity and Buddhism. Do you think that is correct?
Kalkande Dhammananda Hamuduru will be better positioned to explain that, but I believe that is correct. What I'm trying to say is that let's look at the commonalities between the religions, and that's why I said that human value and kindness, Karunava, Ekamotukama, and so on. But what I was trying to say there is that there are these commonalities. There may be differences, right? There would be the Patitta Samuppada and something else, right? But when you look at the Sila and basically the core teaching, there is a lot of similarities. So why do you, and that's what I was explaining with the toothpaste as well. But if you're basically looking at spirituality, why focus on the differences? That's the argument I was bringing. Why don't you have the commonalities and work on that, right? Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is that it's okay to be a Christian. It's okay to follow Hinduism. It's okay to be a Islam as well, Buddhist. So it doesn't matter. Just focus on what do you think is right. That's the high. Ultimately, it comes to the situation that you have to figure out for yourself which is the right call for you and the right thinking, clear thinking. That is what is important. That's the way I'm thinking.
Yeah, we don't discuss much religion at home. However, well, you have made me understand in the 1 hour that you spoke to us. You have made me understand more about Buddhism than the 40 years of married life. However, one of the disagreements that we have about the two religions is that in Christianity we are always taught really to not look at self. We look at others, other situations, and that has always been the argument that we have at home. Whereas in Buddhism, you are inwardly reflecting.
The way I understand Buddhism, Ajanta, is that it sort of goes to the extent that there is non-self. That means there is no real self, right? That's the level it is going. So there is that commonality there. It's just that it's probably going a step further than Christianity, and basically saying that there is nothing like I there. There is no I. There is no Ajanta. There is no Niranjan, right? So things are happening because of impersonal processes.
There you are, Rasika. You have nothing to worry about. There's no Ajanta. Okay, one. Over to you.
මේ ප්‍රශ්න ඇත්තටම මේ අපේ හාමුදුරුවන්ටයි හාමුදුරනේ මේ හාමුදුරුවෝ ඉන්නව නේද?
ඉන්නවා.
හාමුදුරනේ මේ කුල භේදය ගැන පොඩි ප්‍රශ්නයක්. මේ දැන් අපේ ජෙනරේෂන් එක ඔය කුල භේදය ගැන තියෙන දැනුම හරිය අඩුයි. මට මතකයි මම ලංකාවේ ඉන්න කාලේ අවුරුදු 30කට ඉස්සෙල්ලා කාලේ එක්කෙනෙක් මේ මොකක් හරි වාදයකදී මට ඉඳගෙන කිව්වා අපෝ මාළුකාරව කට කියලා. මට මේ ඊයේ පෙරේදා තමයි ඒක තේරුනේ මේ කුලයට කියපු දෙයක් කියලා. මං හිතුවා නිකන් ඒ මාළුකාරය වගේ ගහගෙනවා කියලා කිව්වයි කියලා. ඉතින් මේ මගේ ප්‍රශ්නය තමයි හාමුදුරනේ දැන් මට මේ යන්තම් තමයි ඔය කුලය ගැන දන්නේ. අපේ ළමයින්ගේ පරම්පරාව කුල ගැන කිසිම දෙයක් දන්නේ නැහැ. ඉතින් දැන් මේ ඉස්සරහට මේ කුල ભેදය දැන් මං හිතන්නේ වැඩි දෙනෙක් අතරගේ ඔළුවේ තියෙන්නේ නැහැ ඔය කුල ભેදය. ඔය කුලේ මොකද්ද කියලාවත් දන්නේ නැති පරම්පරාවක් තමයි දැන් ඉන්නේ. ඉතින් මේ අපේ නිකාය ભેදය මේ කුලය සම්බන්ධ ඇති කරගෙන ඒක වෙනසක් වෙනවා කියලා ඔබතුමාට හැඟෙනවද මේ කාලේ?
ඔව් ඒ කියන්නේ කාරණා දෙකක්. මේ එකක් තමයි උඩරට නුවර ඒ ඉඩම් පදනම් කරගත්ත වැඩවසම් ඒකේ දස්තාවශේෂ වශයෙන් පවත්නා ආයතන ව්‍යුහයක් තියෙනවා. ඒවා ඉඩම් එක්ක බැඳිලා තියෙනවා. නමුත් තරුණ හාමුදුරුවෝ අධ්‍යාපනයේ ලබන පිරිස අතර ඒ තත්ත්වය විශාල විදිහට අඩු වෙමින් යනවා. මේක ආයි මම කිව්වොත් අපි මේ කතා කරන සංවාදය සත්‍යෝදය වගේ මේ සංවාදය තුල තමයි මේක වෙනස් වෙන්නේ. ඔබතුමා කියන එක හරි අලුත් පරම්පරාව මේක සම්පූර්ණයෙන් අගේ අලුත් පරම්පරාව දන්නේ නැහැ. නමුත් අර ඉඩම් හා බැඳුණු ආයතන වල එක පවතින්නේ ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම කුලය පවත්වාගෙන යන එකට වඩා මේ ඉඩම් එක්ක බැඳුණු ඒකේ තියෙන ආර්ථිකය. ඒක තමයි මට කියන්න පුළුවන්. ඒකේ නින්දගම් වගේ තියෙනවා, රජකාලින දීපු ඉඩම් තියෙනවා. එතකොට අන්න ඒ ඉඩම් වල ඉන්න ගම්වැසියෝ ඉන්නවා. මෙන්න මේ අර්ථ ක්‍රමය තුල තමයි ඒ ආයතන වල මේක පවතින්නේ. එතකොට ඒ අර්ථ ක්‍රමය එක්ක මේක බැඳිලා තියෙනවා. ඕක තමයි මට කියන්න පුළුවන්.
බොහොම ස්තුතියි හාමුදුරනේ. අපි ඒ ගැන වැඩිපුර කතා කරන්න ඕනේ. අපි පස්සේ වෙන කෙනෙක්ට දෙන්න. කවුද අත ඉස්සුව මම දැක්කා.
මම පොඩ්ඩක් කතා කරන්නද?
Lakshmi?
Yeah, I want to say two things. First is, as a Buddhist, I mean, I have been a Buddhist since I was born, but that is no advantage in understanding Buddhism. But I must say that Buddhism and all the other religions differ in one main aspect. In Buddhism, there is no creator God. We are for ourselves, and what we do, we reap. In all the other religions, as little as I know, I don't know very much about the other religions, but I believe there is a creator God, and our fate very much depends on faith. In Buddhism, it is not faith. It is the convincing that the Buddha, අපේ සරණ බුදුන් කියන එක අපේ විශ්වාසය වෙන්නේ අපේ අවබෝධයෙන් මිසක් ෆේත් එකෙන් නෙමෙයි. මම ඒක දකින්න එක ඇත්තටම මේ අර මැලේසියාවේ හිටපු ධම්මානන්ද හාමුදුරන්ගේ අවුරුදු 30කට විතර කරපු දේශනාවකින් තමයි මට මේක හොඳටම පැහැදුනේ උනේ. අනිත් කාරණේ මම කියන්න ඕනේ, the next thing I want to tell is about the rituals. I totally agree with Venerable Walpola Rahula, saying that the rituals shouldn't take the priority in religion, and we are going overboard most of the time. And if we have something, we go to Kataragama, and because we want to wish for ourselves, or we have bought a new car and we want to have good time in the new car and sort of things. And those beliefs I don't really believe that they are wrong in my way. But if you are doing like a Buddha puja or something, the time you think of the Buddha puja, your thoughts are pure. You are thinking of doing something very good. Now, for instance, I have a dane on the 11th to our Manchester temple. The very thought comes to me that I have to give that dane. I plan it and I think what I should do and things like that. So, I mean, the rituals have their own goodness as well, but one should not go overboard in doing something. That is, there should be a baseline. And I don't believe plucking millions of flowers for a Buddha puja, even to Ruwan Velisaya, and giving all the fruits in Sri Lanka for a puja. That type of thing I don't advocate, but simple rituals have their place. And as one said, I think it is Nirmala said that we have to have a ground where our culture is nurtured, and the Buddhism will survive if taken properly in that environment. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your observation. We are running out of time soon. I like to pose a question to the Reverend Galkand again, related to Walpola Rahula. What I like to know is, has his teaching, has the publication of the book had a big impact on the organized Buddhist society? I'm referring to the Nikayas and so on, and all the people who wield power in Sri Lanka in influencing people's thoughts. How much has that affected that group of people who wield so much influence in the Buddhist society? My
answer is, I hardly see any any influence. The Sathyodaya and this discussion goes in particular level. Those institutions, they operate in a different level. As I mentioned earlier, most of the time those institutions in Kandy, they based on lands and that kind of feudal structure. And as long as that structure is there, this will continue. But what I understand, not that organizations, but the independent monks I see in the universities and not only among students but academics who are teaching there, there are people. These organized chapters, Nikaya, I think they are operating in a different level. මම දකින්නේ නැහැ ලොකු බලපෑමක් තවම.
බොහොම ස්තුතියි කිව්වට must remind people that the Reverend Galkande Damananda runs a lot of interfaith meetings where he gets people from the Muslims, Hindus, Christians, they all join together and celebrate the commonality of things and try to not put one above the other. And I think, am I right in saying that he's not saying that we are all the same. He's saying we are different, but we must live with that, not in a subjugate way, saying that I am better than you or you are better than me. We are all human beings. We have varying beliefs, but we must share the goal of being kind to people, loving kindness, exercising restraint, tolerance, and live in a society where people can live happily. I think that's his message, if I got it right, Reverend Damananda. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, I will now. Sorry, Mahesh has one observation, and then we'll finish.
Yeah, it's in response to what Lakshmi said a few minutes ago. As many of you know, I think we have discussed this in SLLS before. The Advaita Vedanta Hinduism is devoid of God or a creator. There is no God, there is no creator. And God in Hinduism that I follow is used merely as a way of getting people to develop a particular mindset. So there is no place for creation and that kind of stuff. You know, if you look at Advaita, that's what it is.
Ajanta, have you got to say something?
No, Robin has a question.
Robin.
So I don't have a question, and I think it's if all the serious stuff is over, this might be the time for me to make a quick comment. My early life, my experiences between Christianity and Buddhism, they transected and clashed in many ways. Ajanta and maybe Ganepola and people have heard this story before. But my grandmother, my Atama, was Buddhist, and she used to make sure that before she took me on Poya Day, Silganna Biharate and the Kaling, hondata naan ඕනේ. ඉතින් Atama මාව හොඳටම සබන් දාලා ලිඳට ගෙනිල්ලා gave me a good bath. So after that, I had to wear these white clothes, usually a white shirt and a white sarong. And Amma and I called her Amma, not Archie. We went to the Kumbiangoda, Mahatale, Mahavihar. Sometimes we went in Badulla to the Mutiangana Bihar. So her daughter, my mother, was a devout Catholic. So when we came back from Silgan, it took hours. We come back home and my mother would find out, this is her Catholic daughter would find out, oh my gosh, Amma has taken my son to the Vihara. Make a harine. So what she would do is to get rid of all the things from the Vihara she would put Dettol into a bathtub and give me another bath. So these are the transactions, and this is worse than rituals. I could have died from these things. So I know Ajanta is laughing. They have heard this story before. බොහොම ස්තුති මේ කතාවට ඔක්කොම ඉවසන්න මගේ මේ පිස්සු කතාව ගැන. බොහොම ස්තුති.
Thank you. I will ask Niranjan to say the last word. Niranjan.
මටත් වචනයක් දෙන්න.
First, Galkande Damananda, please.
පළවෙනිම නිරංජන් මහත්මයා මම කනගාටුව සමාව අය දිනවා මේ වෙලාවෙම වෙන වැඩක් නිසා මට මේකේ මුල හරියට ඉන්න බැරි වුණා. මම හරිම සන්තෝසයි මහල් නිරංජන් ඔබ දෙදෙනා ඊළඟට මේ වැඩේ රාහුල් හරු ඉන්න කාලෙ මේක පරිවර්තනය කරන්න උත්සාහ කළා වෙනත් කෙනෙක්. නමුත් ඒ භාෂාව ඒ සංකල්පය ගන්න බැරි වුණා. හමුදුර ඒක එකඟුනේ නැහැ. නිරංජන් මහත්තයා මේක පරිවර්තනය කරනකොට he studied Walpola Rahula Thero language, what the Buddha taught and everything, and he tried very much to put this into English very closer to the language that Walpola Rahula Thero would have used. So I really appreciate and Mr. Niranjan and Mahal, I'm sure she is around, and I really appreciate both of your contribution. And thank you, Mr. Mahendra, organizing this. I'm really happy to join with you. One more thing, Mr. Ajanta, that Christianity and Buddhism, it talks about poverty. Adu what comes sahita ජීවිතේ. Buddhism කතා කරනවා අන්න ඒ දෙකේ එතන තමයි අපි ගොඩාක් ලං වෙන තැන අපි පටන් ගන්න පුළුවන් නම් හැම ආගමක්ම කන්ටෙක්ස්ට් එකක ආපු එකක්. එතකොට ඒ කන්ටෙක්ස්ට් එක නොසලකා අපිට ආගම කතා කරන්න අමාරුයි. ඒ නිසා බුද්දිසම් 6th century BC ඉන්දියාවේ කන්ටෙක්ස්ට් එක. එතකොට අන්න ඒවත් එක්ක තමයි අපිට මේ පණිවිඩයට යන්න වෙන්නේ. මං හිතන ඔයට වැඩි මං කතා කරන්නේ. බොහොම ස්තුතියි මට ආයසරයක් ඇපොලොජයිස් මට සමා වෙන්න මේ මට යන්න උනේ මේක නැතුව මට ඒ නිසා. ඉතින් බොහොම ස්තුතියි හැම දෙනාටම.
Bhumi Stuti. Final question to Alpha. That's the final question. Alpha, go ahead. Where are you? Unmute, please.
Can you see me and hear me?
We can now see you and hear you. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I've just put that question on the chat, Mahendra, to the right Reverend the Thera, Galkananda. Can I ask him? I mean, he speaks so fluently in English, and I'm very impressed. And whether that's taught widely within the temples, I mean, like the tutelage to the Samaneras, so that they have a good understanding and able to speak and understand English, because it's a fantastic. I mean, it's a medium of common communication. And in Sri Lanka, that's lacking.
Well, English is taught in Pirivana, but more emphasized the Vedi Avadaniya Pali Sanskrita Valata. And they, I mean, අඩු ඉංග්‍රීසි හොඳ පුහුණු ගුරුවරු ඒ ආයතනවල ඒ ප්‍රශ්නයට ඒක මුහුණ දෙනවා ඒ ආයතන. යම් පිරිසක් ඉංග්‍රීසි හොඳින් ඉගෙන ගන්නවා නමුත් ඒක පොදුවේ හොඳ තත්වයක් කියලා කියන්න අමාරුයි. It is not the සාමාන්‍ය තත්වය නෙවෙයි.
බොහොම ස්තුතියි හාමුදුරුවනේ. ඒ ප්‍රශ්නයට උත්තර දුන්නාට.
Okay, Niranjan, you have the final say, and then I will just sum up.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Mahendra. Yeah. So first of all, I'll want to say hello to Robin Henry. I don't know whether he can remember me. I was the guy who used to be in the science faculty playing table tennis. He might remember.
Oh, yes.
Harry Nadaraja, who's passed away. So I'm that guy. So you were the person from St. Anthony's Katugastata playing tennis. I can remember, right? So I just say that hi after a long period we are meeting again. Yeah. So other than that, today I'm happy to make this presentation. I told my story the way I saw it, and I hope I got the message across. So I tried to mix what I learned from translating the book, and also how I try to put it, and I sort of discovered other things. I would try to put this message across the best way I can. And also inadvertently, or what, I am happy I was able to do this translation. It was not probably my comfort zone, in the sense that when I was asked, I was surprised. And first reaction was like, why me? But it was like, okay, but why not me? That idea was okay, because when it was first asked, why me? Aren't there people who are more knowledgeable or who have translated this stuff? This is my first experience. But then I thought to myself, why not me? I can do it. So let's just do it. So that's how I took it. And thank you for Galkande Dhammananda and all that. I agree with him that basically there has to be a plan for a long period to train the people. But the idea was to give this message to a community other than Sri Lanka. And today in my presentation, I tried to keep the Buddhist aspect low. I try to give that universal message. That's what I was trying to do, right? Because I think we had this conversation with Mahendraya, and he said that we changed the title a few times, and we thought, okay, let's get some commonality and let's structure it so that there is a appeal to the entire situation. So that is my. I'm so glad. Anyway, thank you for everybody to listen, coming and listening, and thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Niranjan. Very grateful that you appeared on our show. And I just like to say that as far as I'm concerned, we have achieved our objective. We have given an opportunity for a great thinker to share his thoughts with us, and again to understand that while we are different, that we are similar. It's a paradox, but we are. Okay. So all the best. Thank you very much. Okay.